Belonging is a basic human need. Numerous studies have shown that feelings of belonging are associated with many positive life outcomes, such as a greater sense of well-being and happiness, better stress management, greater health, and even lower mortality rates. On the other hand, the feeling that one does not belong has been linked to emotional distress, health risks, increased risk behaviors, and depression. When we feel like we don't belong somewhere, we are more anxious and more stressed in that environment, and that stress makes it harder for us to focus our attention and to fully engage. This can impair learning and performance. So what do we mean when we say belonging? Belonging is the feeling that one is respected and valued in a given context. In this course, we will focus on the powerful role that belonging plays in academic success and in commonly observed achievement gaps.
School's hard, right? I mean, it's hard for everybody. People are trying to learn new things, difficult things. You know, all of us as students and as teachers fail a lot in school. We do things that don't work. We have to feel okay about that. We have to be able to get up from that. We have to feel like other people aren't going to judge us negatively or wish we weren't there. And so to feel like you belong, to have a security in that feeling is essential for being able to trust the environment and being able to learn and participate and try things that are hard, try things where you're going to fail.
Research shows that students are more likely to be motivated, engaged, resilient, and successful if they feel like they belong in school. Just as important, research shows that educators can have a powerful effect on students' sense of belonging. The decisions educators make about the way they structure students' experiences in school can shape students' sense of belonging and their academic success. Attention to belonging is especially important in the context of educational equity and achievement gaps. As we will explain in this course, students who are members of stereotyped groups are especially likely to be anxious that they do not belong. Widespread stereotypes in our society suggest that certain groups of students don't or can't do well in school. And research shows that the existence of these stereotypes can make students anxious about whether or not they belong.
That feeling that we all have of uncertainty, trying to find our way, is more pervasive and felt more deeply if you're going into a setting where there's some reason why your group might not belong there. So if your group is underrepresented in the setting, if your group faces negative stereotypes in the setting, you can ask that question again and again. And that's really important because if you're asking the question again and again, if you're interpreting your world as you enter it from the perspective in part of the question, do I belong here? Then when something bad happens, if you feel excluded, if you feel rejected, if you feel just lonely maybe in a setting, it's easy to infer maybe this means I don't belong in general here, or even maybe this means people like me don't belong here. And those are really damaging inferences. It's really hard to stay motivated and stay engaged if you're constantly having to contend with that question in your mind, is this a place where I belong?
When people are uncertain about their belonging, they search for cues to help them determine if they fit in, if they are liked, and if they are valued and respected. This search for cues about belonging and related anxieties can deplete cognitive resources. In other words, anxiety about belonging can distract and discourage students, making it harder for them to succeed and increasing achievement gaps. It can also make students less likely to form close, trusting relationships with students and with teachers, relationships that are critical for getting help when one is struggling and for deepening one's sense of connection to school. This makes it especially important to attend to belonging concerns if we wish to create a school environment where all students feel valued and perform at their best. Importantly, research also shows that targeted changes to practice can reduce belonging anxiety and mitigate race and gender-based achievement gaps. In fact, interventions that improve students' sense of belonging in school have decreased racial achievement gaps in college by close to 30%. They've halved suspension rates in middle schools, and they've substantially improved grades and attendance rates of high school students considered at risk of dropping out. This means that educators are in a unique position to set the tone and create a space where everyone feels that they can belong and grow.
Teachers are the people who most proximally set the tone for the classroom and define what that community is and what that community means. And so when you can define that community in a way that's really inclusive of everybody and values everybody, then that's wonderful. Now, that's not to say it's easy. There's lots of times where you do things badly, where you do things inadvertently that make somebody feel like they don't belong. I've done that with graduate students who've then, years later come back and told me about bad things that I did to them. And so I think it's important to have a kind of growth mindset about those processes, to understand yourself as trying to create inclusive culture and inclusive community, and knowing that sometimes you're going to be able to do that effectively, sometimes you're going to make mistakes.
Doing this effectively takes practice, so it's critical to view it as a learning process and expect yourself to make mistakes. In this course, we'll share perspectives from students, teachers, and researchers in order to help you get started on that challenging but rewarding journey.